One lone hand is raised
Subversive.
up here. Actually, that is one more than I expected, I have to be honest.
Really?
Fuck no. Sorry, we are uncensored, but oh my god, the idea there's any comparison.
The chatter had been building all morning, and by the time Piers Morgan hit the airwaves, everyone knew the royal gossip world was about to explode. But no one, not even the most die-hard Meghan Markle watchers, expected the hurricane that was about to hit Monaco. When Piers Morgan dropped the latest bombshell from his hidden interview, Meghan Markle didn't just react, she completely lost it. It all started innocuously enough, if you could call it that. Morgan had teased his segment on Twitter with his usual blend of provocation and promise. You think you've heard it all about the Sussexes? Think again. Exclusive revelations coming that will shock the world, he posted. The tweet alone sent Meghan's legal team scrambling. For weeks, they had tried to control leaks, keep old interviews under wraps, and manage every whisper near her name. But Piers, with his uncanny ability to stir the pot, had already set the stage for chaos.
Harry and Meghan, when their behaviour became obnoxious, self-serving, and rankly hypocritical, there was a decision taken by the palace.
And chaos was exactly what unfolded. Morgan opened the segment with his signature mix of bravado and skepticism, the kind that makes viewers lean in a little closer, popcorn in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, the camera zooming slightly for effect, "you thought the Sussexes were done making headlines? That they'd retreated to California and the world would forget? Not quite. I've got something you weren't expecting. Something that frankly might explain a lot about why the Duchess of Sussex behaves the way she does in public." The footage cut to blurred clips, cropped screenshots, and snippets of audio, all of which Morgan claimed had never been seen or heard by the public. Meghan's legal battles, her Netflix deals, and even the infamous podcasts were teased as context, but the real kicker was the hidden interview Morgan claimed to have, revealing the Duchess in moments of private confession, moments the public had never been allowed to see.
Of the royal family or the monarchy, given that two of our most famous young royals have waged a 3-year war.
Immediately, social media erupted. Clips of the Morgan teaser were shared thousands of times. Memes were born, and hashtags like #MeghanBombshell and #MorganExposes started trending. For Meghan, this was the kind of storm every PR team fears. Every carefully crafted public statement, every Instagram post, every philanthropic spotlight was suddenly at risk of being overshadowed by whispers of private moments, now broadcast in vivid color to millions. Inside Monaco, sources say Meghan's reaction was immediate. She reportedly slammed her laptop shut, her assistants scrambling to console her. Staff who had been prepped for press inquiries found themselves suddenly in triage mode, handling calls, drafting statements, and consulting lawyers in real time. One insider described it as pandemonium of a type rarely seen before. But it wasn't just the content of the interview that upset Meghan. It was the timing. The world thought she was in control, that the Sussex brand was strong, that the narrative had shifted in her favor. Piers Morgan's revelation threatened to undo all of that. And it wasn't just any journalist. This was Piers Morgan, someone who had been vocally critical of her for years, someone who could take an offhand comment and turn it into a global story overnight.
With the media, everything that she does, they basically lambast.
What made it worse, sources claim, was the precision with which Morgan framed the revelations. He didn't need to make accusations or sensationalize beyond what the clips already suggested. The editing, the pauses, the strategic cuts, everything was designed to amplify the drama, to make it feel like a personal exposé. And for Meghan, watching it unfold in real time was like a personal attack amplified 1,000 times over. The first piece of the interview that caused an uproar featured a segment where Meghan allegedly expressed frustration over her public image, how she felt misunderstood, under attack, and unappreciated despite her charitable work and her efforts to remain visible in Hollywood and London society alike. Morgan didn't interpret it for the audience. He let the clips speak for themselves, and speak they did. Immediately, the internet jumped to conclusions. Critics and commentators dissected every word, every inflection, every pause. Some suggested this was proof of Meghan's supposed vanity, while others argued it was a genuine expression of someone under constant scrutiny, grappling with the pressures of fame and monarchy. But for Meghan, the conversation didn't matter. What mattered was the loss of control.
Oh, really? That feels odd to me.
According to sources close to the Sussexes, Meghan's first instinct was legal action. Calls were made, emails fired off, and legal teams were mobilized to determine whether anything in the broadcast could be contested. But insiders pointed out that this wasn't straightforward. Morgan had cleverly avoided direct statements that could be legally actionable. He hadn't lied, he hadn't defamed, but he had presented private moments in a way that made them public and viral. In today's media landscape, that's almost as devastating as an outright attack. Harry, meanwhile, was reportedly caught in the emotional crossfire. Sources describe him as frustrated, trying to calm Meghan while also managing his own media fallout. He was furious not only at Morgan but at the fact that the narrative had once again turned toward his wife's vulnerabilities and, by extension, toward him. The couple, who had worked so hard to maintain a specific public image, suddenly found themselves back in a swirl of speculation, criticism, and judgment. And the timing couldn't have been worse. The interview dropped just as Meghan was planning to ramp up promotional efforts for a new charitable initiative and several media appearances. Sources suggest the fallout from Morgan's broadcast forced the Sussexes to delay these plans, reassess their media strategy, and launch defensive PR campaigns. It was a domino effect cascading through their carefully curated world, leaving Meghan visibly unsettled.
Very complicated relationship with social media, as you can probably imagine.
Insiders also claimed that Meghan's team was particularly alarmed by the reaction of the broader public. Comments on social media were brutal, swinging between ridicule and shock. Memes proliferated faster than any press release could be circulated, while influencers and media personalities debated the implications endlessly. According to sources, Meghan felt the walls closing in, acutely aware that in the court of public opinion, perception can be far more damaging than reality. At the heart of the storm was Meghan's sense of betrayal. She believed that private words shared in a controlled interview environment would never see the light of day. Yet here they were, dissected by millions, analyzed by critics, and weaponized in a way she hadn't anticipated. For someone who had meticulously managed every detail of her public persona, this sudden exposure was catastrophic. By the time the segment concluded, the damage was clear. Headlines ran wild, clips circulated across platforms, and Meghan Markle, known for her calculated poise, was caught in a rare moment of genuine, unfiltered panic. Those close to her said she was seething, pacing, and muttering about betrayal. The palace remained officially silent, but sources suggest there was private concern about how the narrative might affect the royal brand indirectly. Even allies and supporters expressed caution, acknowledging the unfairness of having private moments broadcast so publicly, yet warning that in the modern media environment, nothing stays private for long. Meghan's strategy of a controlled narrative had hit its toughest test yet, and Piers Morgan had delivered it in prime time, without mercy, without compromise. By the end of the morning, Meghan's Montecito residence was in controlled chaos, with legal teams scrambling to respond and staff working at full tilt. Consultations were ongoing. Media statements were drafted and revised multiple times, while Harry provided emotional support, trying to prevent a full-blown media meltdown. Meghan, meanwhile, was reportedly analyzing every angle, considering every response, and bracing herself for the storm that was certain to follow, a reflection of her complicated relationship with social media. What insiders found most striking was Meghan's intensity. This wasn't a minor PR problem. It was an existential threat to the carefully constructed image she had built over years. Despite every strategic move, every public appearance, every philanthropic endeavor, the court of public opinion could shift in a single broadcast. As social media continued to explode, one thing became painfully clear. Meghan Markle, the woman who had navigated Hollywood, royalty, and global media scrutiny with finesse, had been caught off guard, and she was furious. The morning after the broadcast, Montecito was buzzing with tension. Meghan had barely slept, replaying Piers Morgan's words over and over, while her legal team debated the viability of a lawsuit, potential backlash, and the media storm that would inevitably follow. Every phone call, every email, every text seemed to remind her of just how exposed she had become. Harry, meanwhile, tried to be the calm center in the eye of the storm, though insiders said he was just as rattled. He's furious, one source revealed, not just at Piers, but at how it's all unfolding. Every step they take is scrutinized, every action second-guessed, and now Meghan's private moments have been put under a magnifying glass. It's overwhelming. The Sussexes had spent years meticulously curating their image. Every charity event, every Netflix project, every Instagram post carefully orchestrated to present them as relatable, compassionate, and engaged. And now, in one fell swoop, Morgan's interview had shredded that image, leaving them raw and vulnerable. According to insiders, Meghan's first instinct was to fight back, to strike quickly and decisively. She called an emergency meeting with her PR team, demanding statements, rebuttals, and explanations ready within hours. She wants the narrative controlled, a source said. But this time, the story was out of her hands, and that was infuriating. The conversation reportedly got heated. Meghan, known for her strategic thinking, allegedly berated her team for letting this happen, insisting they should have anticipated Morgan's move. She demanded that her team prepare a response that would both protect her reputation and discredit the claims, all while maintaining her polished, relatable persona. It was a delicate balance, and insiders said the tension in the room was palpable. Harry, watching Meghan's frustration, reportedly felt a mix of concern and helplessness. He understood her desire to control the situation, but he also knew that any overreaction could fuel the media frenzy even further. He's trying to be the voice of reason, an insider revealed, but Meghan is in full crisis mode. She's not just upset, she's feeling cornered, and when she feels cornered, she escalates.
Of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen, nobody in Britain calls her that. Meghan Markle. You know, she got lucky, met her prince, dragged him out of the bosom of his...
As the day wore on, social media continued to light up. Clips from Morgan's interview circulated endlessly, dissected by commentators, pundits, and fans alike. Memes were created, threads on X ran for hours, and YouTube commentary exploded. Some were sympathetic, suggesting Meghan's words had been taken out of context, while others were merciless, painting the Duchess as vain, manipulative, or worse. For Meghan, watching the online response was like watching a wildfire spread, beautifully captivating to outsiders, terrifying to those caught in it. Sources close to the couple described Meghan as oscillating between rage and despair. One moment she was planning strategic responses, the next, she was reportedly retreating into private spaces, reflecting on the implications of the broadcast. Harry tried to intervene, suggesting a measured response, but Meghan's team indicated that she wasn't willing to wait or remain quiet. She wanted action, and she wanted it now. The palace, officially silent, was reportedly monitoring the situation closely. Royal insiders whispered that staff were concerned about the optics and that there were private discussions about how the fallout might affect the monarchy indirectly. Meghan, aware of these silent observers, allegedly became even more defensive, insisting that she was being unfairly targeted and that she would not allow the narrative to define her. By midday, a strategy began to form. Meghan's team prepared talking points for selective interviews, drafted social media statements, and even considered legal action. But the biggest challenge wasn't the content, it was timing. Every response needed to be perfectly timed to counter Morgan's influence, yet not so reactive that the Sussexes appeared defensive or desperate. Timing is everything, a source explained. Meghan knows that if she acts too quickly or too slowly, the media will twist it against her. She wants control, but control is slipping. Harry, watching all this unfold, reportedly felt the weight of the situation acutely. He had long championed Meghan's causes and supported her in public and private, but the reality of the media storm was different from anything he had anticipated. Friends close to him said he felt helpless, frustrated, and deeply concerned for his wife's well-being. He could see the exhaustion on her face, the intensity in her eyes, and the rising tension in their home.
Between two flames. You see how that works? Why?
As afternoon turned to evening, Meghan reportedly became more aggressive in her approach. She demanded that every media outlet sharing clips be contacted, that each narrative be corrected, and that Morgan himself be publicly challenged. Legal advisors cautioned restraint, warning that confronting a figure like Piers Morgan could backfire, but Meghan allegedly brushed aside such advice. "I will not be silenced," she reportedly told her team. "Not this time, not ever." Harry, meanwhile, attempted to mediate between Meghan's instincts and reality, emphasizing that sometimes silence is the better strategy, that not every battle needed to be fought in public. But Meghan was adamant. Allowing Morgan to dominate the narrative without pushback was unacceptable. She saw it as an affront not just to her reputation, but to every strategic effort she had made over the years to maintain influence, relevance, and respect. As night fell, the situation reached a fever pitch. Social media engagement surged, news outlets ran follow-ups, dissecting every word, every clip, and every reaction. Friends described the atmosphere in Montecito as tense, relentless, and exhausting. Sources close to Meghan described her as a woman on the edge, oscillating between determination and frustration. When she feels attacked, she escalates. She wants to be heard. She wants to be understood. And she wants the world to respect her terms. When someone like Piers Morgan undermines that, it's a personal challenge she can't ignore, an insider explained. Harry, witnessing this, reportedly felt torn. He wanted to support Meghan, but worried about the long-term implications of any reaction. The Sussexes had cultivated a brand, built a narrative, and established public sympathy over the years, yet Morgan's interview threatened to unravel it all. He tried to be the voice of reason, reminding Meghan that perception is reality, but she remained in full defensive mode. By late evening, the Montecito residence had become a war room, notes drafted, calls made, strategies debated, legal teams weighing options, PR consultants suggesting measured responses, but Meghan was unyielding, insisting on immediate action and public engagement. Harry, frustrated and exhausted, reportedly took a step back, realizing that some battles had to be faced on Meghan's terms. The day ended with no resolution, only the simmering tension of what would come next. Morgan's interview had set off a chain reaction, and for Meghan Markle, the fallout was personal, public, and inescapable. Harry stood beside her, but even he knew that navigating the storm ahead would require every ounce of strategy, patience, and resilience the couple could muster. One thing was clear, the world was watching, and the Sussexes were not backing down. Subscribe for full coverage and exclusive updates on Meghan and Harry's ongoing story.